back to the Rangers News YouTube channel. My name's James Black and I'm joined by Jordan Carlisle, and we're going to have a look ahead to this weekend's Scottish Premiership clash in Motherwell. The Gers take on the Steelmen after a fantastic 4-0 win in the Europa League against Willem II, whilst Motherwell lost theirs at 3-0 against Hapoel Beersheva over in Israel. The Gers kind of had a poor result in their last league out and drawn 2 each with Hibs to kind of lose any advantage that they had early in the title race. But on the back of the European win in Holland, confidence should be flowing through the Rangers camp. The players look to be in a good place, and hopefully Rangers will get back to winning ways. So, kind of, what's your initial thoughts on this weekend's game, Jordan?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be straightforward. Motherwell's early season form obviously was I think they're really suffering a bit of a hangover from last season, doing so well. Obviously they've had a bit of turnover in terms of the squad, but there's some figures still there, and they just weren't producing early doors. I was at the game or covering the game against St Johnstone a couple of weeks ago, and they won, and I think was a bit of a turning point for them, but they really didn't offer much in terms of going forward. They scored early on, I think, and then really sat in. I think, Stephen Robinson's had a reputation last year, certainly, and a deserved reputation for his team playing good football. And I think that, made them vulnerable when they actually went to play Rangers and Celtic, but they did well against other teams playing in that style. That certainly wasn't the style that they played 2 weeks ago. Or last week, or was it 2 weeks? Yeah, 2 weeks ago against St Johnstone. They scored that early goal and then sat in. But I think that gave them the confidence to go to Aberdeen and get a really good result there. 3 goals in the first half an hour. I think it wasn't, the players that they have, regardless of where they are in the table, dictates that they're one of the more dangerous opponents the Rangers can get. And yeah, the pressure's on. I think in terms of confidence, individual confidence of players should be really high, because the Willem II result was a really good performance, really resounding result, and there should be a lot of confidence there. But at the same time, Rangers have already dropped points twice away from home in the league, so the players will be very aware that they can't really afford a slip up, or certainly the credit that they've got themselves for the Willem II result will go out the window pretty quickly if they don't do well on Sunday. So I think, as usual, despite the injury problems, Rangers should have more than enough to win the game, but it's about executing the game plans properly, and whether we see the clinical away performance that we saw at Willem II, or the one that I think a lot of fans are feel that they see too regularly from Steven Gerrard's team away from home, and whether we struggle to break the opposition down and are a bit lax defensively.
I mean, Motherwell are sitting 8th in the table just now, and as we say, they've really not had a great start to the season. But Fir Park always seems to be one of these places for me where Rangers go, and it's always really hit and miss. They're either really good or they're really, really bad. I don't know why it is. It's always kind of one of these bogey grounds for me. I don't know, actually. I've not actually looked at the results to see if it bears out, but it's always one of those places where you kind of get the feeling when Rangers go that they could slip up. But I think, kind of looking at results so far this season, it should be one where Rangers go out and just put their foot on Motherwell's throats for the first minute.
Yeah, it's a case of, I think, using your attacking players really wisely, and in terms of and letting guys like Kent and Hadji have a bit of license, because really they've struggled. I don't think Motherwell have any real goals from their strikers so far this season. They have all sort of struggled, and they've chipped in. Defenders and midfielders have chipped in. Alan Campbell's their best player by a distance, and he's someone that Rangers are going to have to keep an eye on in terms of, he'll work back and help the back four, but he'll also break forward from midfield and look to feed off strikers or play balls and get in behind. So he's sort of the big danger man. But it's not as if they're coming up against a team, like Hibs were last weekend with Nisbet and Doidge, 2 real dangerous strikers playing 2 up front, really creating a challenge for both Goldson and Hollander. So I think Motherwell have a different threat, and I think they will be content to sit in for lots of it, but it's a case of guys like Kent and Hadji. Hadji was brilliant. Or I thought he was very good. Rangers' best player against Hibs. And Kent was the best player against Willem Tway. So it's about the two of them sort of working together, feeding off each other, and providing a bit of service and providing a bit of magic to break the opposition down. I think an early goal will be key. If you can force them to come out, that's when Rangers should really thrive. So I think a difficult game, but a more than winnable one.
I mean, Alan Campbell is somebody I want to talk to you about, because he's a player I'm a massive fan of. And for me, I think he's someone that ultimately could well end up at Rangers in the not too distant future. At least I hope he should end up at Rangers in the not too distant future. Just how important do you think he can be for Motherwell this weekend?
I think he is the energy source for the team, and also sort of the centre of quality for things. He works really hard, which goes alongside sort of his talent. He scored in that St Johnstone game. He scored a lovely goal. Sort of got a nice bounce to the ball, drove forward, banged one in the bottom corner early doors, and I think he's done well for Scotland under 21s as well. So. They have a few big centre backs, a couple of decent ball players in it. Mark O'Hara, who maybe protect the back four, but he's really the guy who's, and Polworth has decent deliveries from set plays, but Campbell's the guy who's really going to initiate stuff, potentially initiate and finish moves, and also sort of provide that buzz and the sort of unsettling presence for the Rangers midfielders. So he'll be on Stephen Davis's case. He'll be on Glenn Kamara's case in terms of trying to feed on any potential mistakes and slackness in possession. So a key part for Motherwell, both defensively and going forward. He's not the finished article yet, but certainly, you see names bandied around all the time in terms of Scottish players who are linked with Celtic and Rangers. There hasn't been that much about Campbell. It's just he's sort of been allowed, which is probably a good thing. He's been allowed to go along and do his own thing for Motherwell and at youth international level. But certainly, I don't think he's going to be there much longer. And he's certainly capable of playing for a bigger club.
Obviously, it's a quick turnaround from the Willem Tway game. We've seen the starting 11 that took the field in Holland the other night. How do you think Gerrard's side will line up tomorrow? Do you think there's going to be many on Sunday? Sorry, do you think there'll be many changes from the Willem Tway game, or do you think it'll be a fairly similar starting 11?
Yeah, I think it's going to be fairly similar. The turnaround is a factor. The fact that even the fact that the kickoff was moved 2 hours later means that the team are home later, and it's an early kickoff on Sunday, which I think in an ideal scenario, Gerrard would want to make 2-3 changes to freshen it up, keep some sort of continuity, but to freshen it up. But the fact that Aribo, Roof, Jack and Barker are all injured sort of reduces his ability to do that, certainly from the middle to the front. As we sort of, I think we've touched on before, in a review of the Willem Tway game, that I think McGregor will start. He's after that performance, he's undroppable, just like McLaughlin was undroppable for stages at the start of the season. So McGregor comes in. I think the one potential change could be Balogun for Hollander. Balogun obviously impressed, was trusted by playing against Aberdeen away in the first game of the season. He came through that test with flying colours, and he's only played a couple of times since then with injury, and he's had a couple of niggles. Was supposed to start a game and then was pulled out, but I think he's now fit again. So that's an option to freshen things at the back, because despite it being 4-0, Goldson and Hollander were certainly tested and knew they were in a game. But I think other than that, Barisic was given a bit of a breather for Bassey with 20 minutes to go. Kemp was taken off for Jones. Jones showed real endeavour and pace after he came off the bench. So I think it's clear that's what he offers. We've known that since he signed. Certainly watching him for Northern Ireland, he can make a real impact, especially off the bench. And some people may push for him to start at the weekend, but on the basis of 20 minutes, I'm not sure he's ready for that. And I think you go with your best team, with the fact that there's a week after this, the Ross County game. So I think, Hadji Kent support Morelos, and Itten and Defoe need to bide their time probably a little more, because Morelos also got a bit of a rest at the end of the game. Didn't score against Fulham today, but put a really good shift in. And I think we're approaching the end of the window, but while he's still at the club and he's still switched on and working hard, then he starts.
So I'm going to put you on the spot just to finish up. What's your score prediction?
I'm going to go 3-0 Rangers. I'm actually quite confident ahead of it, because I think, obviously that was a really impressive result in the league last time out for Motherwell, but I think they are still a little fragile, and in terms of their general pattern of play, I'm not sure they've got enough at the minute, enough sharpness to break Rangers down regularly. So McGregor might be tested a couple of times, and it's sort of key that Rangers stand up to anything early on. But I think early goal, buoyed by the Willem II result, and come out the blocks hard, and hopefully a comfortable win.
Brilliant. That's everything for this episode then. So we'll have full coverage of this weekend's Motherwell game on the site. We'll have a match report, player ratings, and all the usual gubbins that go with it. Remember to like and subscribe, and have a look through our previous videos, and thanks for watching.